All right, guys, today we are going to be learning about researching. We are preparing for our biography research presentation. So we are going to be talking about how to actually conduct research today. Now, a lot of kids come to me by the time they reach middle school and they don't really know how to research using something like Google. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how most people research, right? Which is kind of like how our grandparents might research, right? They talk to Siri and Google like they're friends. They are trying to ask questions and use a lot of words to find out what it is that Google is saying. So there are really many different ways to find information on the internet, but today we're going to talk about the fastest and most efficient ways to find what it is that you're looking for. So what you guys are going to do is go to your student workbook. I want you to watch this video real quick, pause my video while you watch this, and then come back and we will continue. Now that you've come back, let's go ahead and look at what you watched. So what you just watched was this little bit about how Google actually works. So all of these words are doing is they're restating what the video said. If the video was not working for whatever reason, let's quickly review what the video did say. Basically, Google has things called web crawlers that gather information from across hundreds of billions of web pages and then organizes all of this into a search index. Crawlers look at web pages and follow the links, right? So a lot like what you would do if you're browsing the web. They do is they take that information and they bring it back to Google servers. Google takes note of key signals from keywords to website freshness and then keeps track of it. So Google's search index contains hundreds of billions of web pages and is a very large as well. So let's look at the process. So what you do when you are trying to search something, what Google does when it's thinking about how you guys might search, is it's going to analyze search words to build up language models to decipher what strings of words we should look up in the index, right? So we aren't necessarily going to use questions because every single word gets searched that you type into the search bar. Basically, what the web engine does is it looks at web pages that match your query. So any kind of words, keywords that appear on the page, whether they be in the heading, the title, or the body of the text, Google's going to pull them out and add that to your search results. So there are so many web pages and there are so many different factors that are put in terms. You can have multiple different pages that appear. So Google uses information such as your location, past search history, and search settings to tailor your results more to find what is useful and relevant to you in that moment. So an example is football, right? If you live in the United States and you think about football, you're thinking about like Sunday night football, right? Like the Eagles and the NFL, things like that. If you're living pretty much anywhere else in the world and you look up football, you're going to get what we call soccer. Okay. So it's going to make sure that it's thinking about where you're located when it provides you with your search query. Another thing that Google does is it has ads. So ads are something that companies basically pay Google money to put their things towards the top. So here's an example. I Google searched Fortnite and you can see that the number one result in the index is below the Twitter feed, right? The title reads Get Fortnite Epic Games. But if you look at the top, there is an ad by Epic Games, which appears above our index. This was paid for to be placed at the top of the page. The only way that you can really tell it's an ad is that we do see this little guy over here that says ad in green letters next to the URL. We also see that over here on the side, they have ads down here. So what companies can do is they can pay Google to have their stuff show up at the very top, right? So this up here is actually the ad space. Then you have this kind of Twitter space depending on what it is that you're searching. And then you have your search index below. So you're not always going to hit the first thing that you see up at the top of the page. So let's go back to Grandmom. Grandmom is trying to find out where Harry lives. So she types this into her Google search. Where does Harry live? It's not really specific and it's asking a question. So do you know who she's talking about? On your student version, I want you guys to go ahead and type in who you think Grandmom is looking for. All right, guys. So Grandmom types in where does Harry live, and she gets information about Prince Harry, but that's not what she wanted. So Grandmom goes back to Google and she types in where is Harry from. This time she's pretty much just rearranging some of the words in what she's asking for. It's still not a lot of information though, so Google responds with Harry Styles, right? It's still not what she wants. So let's go ahead and stop asking Google questions and help Grandmom out. Remember, Google analyzes every word in your search. So today what we're going to work on is being more efficient with our searches. Because as you'll see in a moment, every word and every letter, even the order of the words, is going to drastically change what your search results are. So let's see. This is what we decide to help Grandmom with. It turns out that Grandmom really wants to know where Harry Potter lived. So when she types this into the search, let's see what Google gives us. Like magic, here's the information that she was looking for. It's the exact address with some additional information provided. Remember, when we are looking to type things into the search bar, we want to think about specific keywords that you need and leave everything else out. So let's go ahead and practice this a little bit. My grandmom's cat recently started coughing up hair balls on her rug. She wants to know what to do, so she went ahead and she turned to Google. So in Grandma's search, she types in, my cat keeps coughing up sticky fur balls. Is this normal? Remember, like many people, Grandmom talks to Google like it's her friend. So she's asking this question. If this was you, a smart Googler, what words would you use and what words would you get rid of? What I want you to do right now is I want you to go to your student packet and I want you to circle the words that you think are most important to the search. Go ahead and pause if you're not finished. And when you're done, come on back and we'll look at the answer. All right, let's see what Grandmom's Google search should be. So the important words here are cat, cough, and fur balls. So we cut out all the rest of the words. And what we're left with is cat, cough, fur balls. These are the only words that are important here. So let's try another one. Now Grandmom's decided that she wants to become an Uber driver. So she goes to Google and she says, how much money can I earn if I become an Uber driver? Again, we know that this isn't going to give her a good result back. So just like with the previous example, I want you guys to go ahead, use your circle tool to circle what you think the key terms are. Pause this video. And now that you're back, let's go ahead and find out the correct answer. So what should Graham's Google search be? Earn Uber driver. I have money kind of boxed off here because this could be a keyword, but when we're using earn, it's kind of implied along with Uber driver that we're talking about money. So we can go ahead and we can leave that out of our Google search. Let's try one more and see what we can do. My grandmom's decided that she wants to go bungee jumping at the Rio Grande. So she goes to Google and she types in, is the Rio Grande a good place to go bungee jumping? Go ahead, just like the last two times, circle what you think the key words are in this, and we'll go ahead and see if you're correct. Pause if you need more time to circle. Okay, my friends, let's go ahead and see if you were correct with your circles. The only keywords here are Rio Grande and bungee jump. So if you circled those, awesome job. So now let's take a look at 4 very specific lessons Google teaches with examples provided by Google itself. The first one is that every word matters. Every single word that you use is important. Let's first Google search who and then the who and finally a who. When we just type in who, we get the World Health Organization, right? Okay, that makes sense. The short version of World Health Organization is WHO, WHO. When we type in the WHO, we get a Wikipedia page is one of our first ones, which is a rock band. Finally, if we type in a who, we get Horton Hears a Who, right? So you can see that every word, even a word like and the, can change the search results. So this is why asking Google questions is not a good practice. Remember, it's going to take every single word that you type in that search bar and use that as your search query. Every letter also matters. Let's compare the words zoo and zoos. So when we look up zoo, it brings up a map of local zoos to where this was searched, right? But underneath is a collection of websites about the CBS TV show called Zoo. So you can see first we have the map, and then below we have the CBS TV show. It's also over here on the side. So what if we type in zoos? When we type in zoos, we still have that map, but now we also have websites about actual zoo facilities, including recent news articles about zoos. So here's Zoo Wikipedia, right? Over here. So another important thing is that word order matters. Let's look at blue sky versus sky blue in our search bar. When we type blue sky, it produces the results about a planner, a production studio, and a movie called Blue Sky. When we type in sky blue, our results are about a credit repair, the color, and a soccer team. So two very different searches based on the order of the words that we put in. The last important lesson that Google teaches us is that capitalization does not matter. Let's compare George Washington with capitals on the G and W to George Washington without capitalization. So here we can see when we type in George Washington with capitals, our first thing is Wikipedia page. We have these lovely pictures off to the side. When we type in lowercase, it is the exact same. So they produce the exact same result. Although curiously, not capitalizing George Washington actually results in a 0.69 second returned, right? So this is how fast it was able to find versus a 0.72. So it actually was a little quicker to search without the capitals. So let's type in some search tips. Let's say you want to do some research on that weird thing that connects your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. When you search thing that connects tongue to your mouth, you'll notice one of the top results is the frenulum of tongue. So let's perform a new search using the word frenulum. Remember, guys, if you type in general search to try to find the name of something, once you discover that name, you should perform a new search using that specific name that you found. All right. So this is going to give us more information about what we're actually looking for. So when we search up frenulum, we now have much more specific results to what it is that we were looking for than we had before. We can also narrow our search using quotation marks. So let's say Grandma wants to find some tips and tricks on how to be better at bingo. Using quotation marks will only return results with websites that have the exact words in the exact order that you type them in between those quotation marks. So if Grandma wants to find some tips and tricks to beat her friend at bingo, we're going to go ahead and compare the two searches that we have. Typing bingo tips and tricks results in 17 million results. Typing the same thing in quotation mark only gives us 5,680 results. And Grandma knows that every single site will contain the exact phrase bingo tips and tricks. Beware that if you do misspell something in quotation marks, it will only return results with the word misspelled. So we want to make sure that our spelling is accurate. So let's talk about narrowing our search using the minus sign. So let's say that I give you guys a project about lions, right? What might happen when I type in lions? Well, depending where you are, you might get results for the Detroit Lions because football is really big in our area, right? So we're going to get more results about football than about the actual animal, and that's not really helpful to us in our report on the animal lions. So let's use the search tip using the minus sign. The minus sign is going to remove all references of something. So in this case, the Detroit Lions and football. So we're going to say Lions minus Detroit. And what we get is now we have the animal. So we can also try using Google News for recent articles. Google News is a collection of news articles from across the internet from sources all over the world. You can browse by topics or search the keywords. This is a really good thing to use for reports, right, where we're doing some research, especially if it's on like modern day things. You can also use it for some older events as well. You can see if I type in cell phones in schools, I get over 1 million news articles about cell phones in school. One of the nice things about this is that the articles will vary in perspective. So Google's not just going to give you one side of an argument. You can also filter through the search results to only see articles from the past hour, day, week, month, or year, or you can even set a custom range. You might want to use Google Images so that you guys can search up images of who it is that you're researching. Now, what you may not know is that you can actually search images using a color, right? So let's say I'm doing a report and I want a specific picture of a sunset for my cover page. If I type sunset into the search, I'm going to get all different kinds of sunsets. So you can see there are multiple colors here. If, however, I click on tools, then I can filter by color to find only orange or purple sunsets. There's also a great transparent tool that will give you PNG or GIF files that don't have a background. So this is really handy for anyone who is using pictures for art of thumbnails, right? So Google Scholar is also a thing that's going to make your life easier. It's probably something you guys won't use until high school or college, but it is definitely something you should know about. Google Scholar is a collection of over 150 million peer-reviewed articles from academic journals and books, conference papers, theses and dissertations, printables, abstracts, technical reports, and other scholarly literature. You may not realize it now, but this is a huge resource tool. And we'll learn more about it later down the road this year, or some of you guys will actually be learning it later on when you guys are closer to like 8th grade. Finally, let's talk about using Wikipedia in a reliable way. We're going to talk about Wikipedia, but you have to make sure that you're paying very close attention because I'm about to walk you around a bear trap. So make sure you don't step in it. You've heard your whole lives that Wikipedia is not reliable. But today we're going to find out how you can use it in a reliable way. So you can never cite Wikipedia as a source when you're talking about an essay that you're using, unless there will be some cases where occasionally I will okay you or your teacher will okay you at this stage. But really, you can't really use Wikipedia as a source. Not today, not next year, definitely not in high school or in college or ever, right? But let's look at how Wikipedia can help lead you to sources that you can cite. Here's an article about mobile phones and driving safety. Now, if you notice while reading the article, I found this great piece of information that I want to use for my research paper. It turns out that State Farm did a study showing 19% of people use the internet from their phone while driving. I can't use this in my paper directly from Wikipedia. To do so would mean that I'm citing that I found information on a source that can be edited by the common man. But do you see that little number that is sitting next to that quote, that important piece of information? It's a little 9 at the end of the sentence. This is a citation that someone put in saying this information is from another source. So let's see what happens when I go ahead and I click on that number 9. It takes me to the bottom of the article with a citation to an LA Times article. There's also a link to the actual article. Is Wikipedia a credible source that you can cite? No. Is the Los Angeles Times a credible source that you can cite? Yes. So let's go ahead and click on that link. Just as a side note, if you look below that, there is a US National Highway Traffic Safety Administration distracted driver report. This could also be a very useful resource. So you can feel free to browse through this whole section and get more great resources. You can definitely use a lot of the resources in the source section of Wikipedia articles to find sources that you can cite. Wikipedia is also a quick and easy way to get a basic amount of information so you kind of know what it is that you're looking for when you're researching. But remember, we are not able to cite it. So you guys can't cite that as one of the 3 sources that I'm going to require for this activity. So when we click on that link, it takes me to the actual article that the information was taken from. Now you have to go through the article to find that study, and you can quote it from here to cite the actual article. You can 100% cite the LA Times article once you find the information inside. You 100% cannot cite the Wikipedia article. You can only use Wikipedia to help lead you to sources and gain kind of a basic understanding about what it is that you're researching. All right, guys, that is everything that I have for you today. On Friday, you guys are going to go ahead and you're going to start your research for your presentation. You will also be choosing your person. So be prepared to do our research on Friday. I hope that you are having a great day, and I'll see you later.